Welcome once again to Wrecked. It's me, Laz, and I am here with Allison. Hi, Allison.
Hi.
And this is a Fat Records fan podcast.
Indeed. Indeed.
Hope you're doing well.
I'm there. I said
Me
I just
too.
got back from Fest, but we are keeping this train moving.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I had kind of a rough morning myself, but this sort of thing always makes me feel better.
Right.
So let's tell everyone what we're talking about today.
We are talking about Face to Face, Don't Turn Away. From what I understand, it's a re-release on Fat Records, right? Am I getting
Yeah. In fact, it's the only Fat release, I guess you could say, by Face to Face until their most recent two albums, Hold Fast, or I'm sorry, I think it's Protection and No Way Out But Through.
Interesting. Yeah, this originally was on Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Cool label as well.
Yes, Doctor Strange has had some bands like the Voodoo Glow Skulls on it, and as well as Skank and Pickle.
Yeah, and I love both those bands. So.
Absolutely.
A slut for ska, I tell you.
Tell me about this record.
All right.
Some hard facts.
Some hard facts. I mean, these aren't hard facts because they're from Wikipedia, but I'll still take it. It says Don't Turn Away is the first album by the American punk band Face to Face. It was released in 1992 under Doctor Strange Records, but is considered a strong debut from this band and was later re-released on Fat Records. It was released in 1992. It was recorded in October 1991 in Hollywood, except for a couple of tracks that were recorded in Los Angeles. It is considered punk rock / skate punk, and it's a whopping 37 minutes.
Produced by Face to Face,
Yes.
I guess. And then we have Trevor Keith on guitar and vocals, Matt Riddle, bass and backup vocals, not to be confused with professional wrestler Matt Riddle. Just want to throw that out there. And on drums, Rob Kurth.
Yeah. I've been reading a lot of reviews, obviously, about this album, and they said that Trevor Keith and Matt Riddle are basically like the glue of this band, especially this album, which is kind of interesting perspective.
Yeah, very. Matt Riddle does some very good backing vocals. There's some good harmonies. There's not a lot of them, but when they hit, they're good and they work really well. Interesting fact about this record is that it had a single hit the Billboard Top Modern Rock Tracks in the position of 39 with the track Disconnected back in 1995. So this is big time punk rock.
Yeah, actually, I saw for Disconnected specifically, because I was kind of just looking up stuff about the song in general. Apparently it was on the Tank Girl soundtrack and National Lampoon Senior Trip.
I didn't see Senior Trip, but Tank Girl, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And weirdly enough, when I was looking up research for this, man, was this like a blast from the past. I had totally forgot that Jon Stewart had a show before the Daily Show.
He had a show on MTV, I think, right?
Yeah, that's what it was. And it was only for 2 years. I was just like, what am I watching on YouTube right now? And I was like, holy shit, that's a very young Jon Stewart. And they had Face to Face on there, but it was for the album Big Choice, which totally makes sense. But it was just crazy to see a Jon Stewart again in that format, and then be like Face to Face being on that show for like a hot minute with Ed Love and Dr. Dre. It was the weirdest. Like,
MTV in the 90s, huh?
I know, right? Remember when that was awesome?
Well, I mean, in the 90s, it was kind of
dream, right?
In the 90s, it was kind of transitioning to the reality TV that it is today, but there was still like music-centric programming, right? Yeah. Ed Love and Dr. Dre, they did, what was it? They had a hip hop show, Yo MTV Raps.
Yeah, which I was also very obsessed with.
A classic 90s viewing, as far as I'm concerned.
I had a really long talk about Matt Pinfield the other day. I don't remember who that was with.
Matt Pinfield is amazing.
He sometimes comes to South by and I get really starstruck, and I'm just like, it's just Matt Pinfield. You need to calm the fuck down.
Not to be confused with Pat Minefield. So
No,
which is
totally
actually would be a really punk stage name. It's up for grabs if anybody wants to take it. I'm throwing it out there.
I've seen a lot of crazy punk band names. That Michael Sarah Palin.
Oh,
is
that is weirdly offensive, but ooh.
I know. I was
awkward.
like,
very awkward.
Yeah, and there was another one about George Costanza. I can't remember the other day. It was just
I had a friend who wanted to name a punk band bigger than Hitler. And he's like, what's bigger than Hitler? I was like, I don't know. And he's like, exactly.
I don't want to know.
I was like, yeah, dude, that's... And he was...
That went dark real quick.
Right. Well, he was... at the time, like, the band, it was going to be me, him, and a drummer who... the real musical talent of the band, not me. The guy who was going to play drums, but, like, he was actually musically talented. And he was like an LGBT... He was like an LGBTQ kid. And my buddy was like a Latino. So like since he threw bigger than Hitler at me, I was like, okay, you know, not the white guy. I didn't come up with it. So I felt, okay, maybe that would be all right.
But you're going to have to defend
right.
it,
In the end, I'd be like, well, I just leave it up to him. So in any case, that band never happened.
Probably with good reason.
Yeah, definitely.
Could you imagine the merch for that? Just no.
Yeah, right. It would be terrifying. Back
God.
as an edgy teenager, I suppose.
Little edgelords. Okay.
Well, let's talk.
Yes, good segue into the
Let's talk about this album. It's called "Don't Turn Away." It is their debut record, and it has a total. At least the original release had 13 tracks.
Yes.
And so
I do have to point out something from the cover, just because it came to me like 20 minutes ago. So when you look at the cover, it's the maroon, or depending which release you have, the blue. And it's a dude looking down, like, with his head or whatever. I was like, how many punk album covers have that shit on there? I could think of 3. But I'm sure that's not just the 3, right?
Well, the 3 that I can think of, besides this one, would, of course, be, like, Minor Threat, and then and Out Comes the Wolves. Right?
Yeah.
But there's got to be more.
Think about how many people copied those albums and just went down, you know?
Right. Like, well, I mean, I guess...
Did Face to Face make this happen?
Ian Mackay is a trendsetter, I guess.
I think it's Ian Mackay, if I had to put money on it. But I did find that interesting. I was like, how did I not know this staring at this album for so many years? Oh my God. We can start with You've Done Nothing.
Okay, sure.
Track.
Well, I do want to preface this with sort of like how I went into this album. It's not one that I had listened to completely. Right? So going back, and so my main feeling of Face to Face comes from 2 different things. One is an album called How to Ruin Everything, which I really like. I think it's a really good album. But then the other comes from the track Disconnected, which to me, in high school, like trying to be hardcore and punk as fuck, like that got radio play. It got significant amount of radio play. And I always kind of felt like Face to Face was a band that maybe they like some corporate radio dude like was like, oh, this is a punk band. We're going to throw it out there. But I didn't realize, I had forgotten that it was also on the Tank Girl soundtrack, which is probably why it got all that radio play. And so like, I've always had this sort of, I don't want to say relationship with Face to Face, but like with their music, I always kind of felt like they never really stood out, but like corporate radio tried to make them stand out. Except I did like How to Ruin Everything, which I thought was really good.
Yeah.
And it sounds different, but consistent to this album. And so that's where I want to start, but let's talk with You've Done Nothing.
All right. I'll get into it. Let's just say, I do like the intro to this album with the song just because I feel like it was purposely placed there. I like that the vocals are soloed in the beginning, you know, it's just that you're getting into it. This is such a 90s sounding album. It's kind of hard to get past that, just because obviously researching into this album, it's just like riddled with it. It's such a timepiece, but I do believe that it has stood the test of time in a certain sense, you know, because so much good punk music came during this time and then we kind of forgotten, unfortunately. But this is also a weird song to me, the fact that it said it has a shout out to Dr. Seuss in it. And it does, because it takes I want to say lyrics, it's words, I guess. Dr. Seuss is kind of weird. It takes words from, or quotes from, All the Places You Will Go, because I'm like super into that.
Okay, so. That's something I didn't see, so that's really
oh my god. Okay, yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like you have your shoes and your feet, or something. I can't remember how it goes, but yeah, that's actually Dr. Seuss. It's like,
well, everyone.
I had to think about which story it was, and I was like, oh, it's All Places You Will Go. I'm like, son of a bitch.
You got to take inspiration from someplace, you know, even if it's Dr. Seuss, who it's very, you know,
it's melodic,
right?
Words.
Well, yeah, I mean, and
it's basically
pretty much everybody likes Dr. Seuss, right? I think. To me, this song doesn't really stand out that much. Like as an intro song, it wasn't like, oh man, I got to listen to the next track. But I do really like the lyrics, and a lot of these tracks I really went kind of in depth, and I see a lot of themes in this record, lyrically.
There's so many damn things. That's why I was kind of having a hard time when I was telling you earlier, like deciphering some of it, because it has so many.
Yes, and the deeper you go into the album, the more evident it is. And so when I listen to this song, I see it about someone who's seeing no fault in themselves. They're doing things their way, but ultimately they're isolated by that. And I think it's about a person who's trying so hard to be a self-sufficient individual that they end up alone, rather being interesting or who they really want to be in life. And that's where this song took me. And I don't know if that is what they were going for, but that's what I kind of gleaned out of this one.
Mine's a little more simplistic. I was like, is this song about being a poser or just being
I think
lost?
It's about being lost in life, right? But I think it is a little bit about being a poser, and that is what gets you lost in life.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, a lot of their lyrical content throughout this album is very open-ended and very kind of vague. So as I'm saying, like, it could go either way depending on your interpretation.
And maybe I'm just reading way too deeply, but you know, again, musically it didn't really stand out, but lyrically, it's a good start and it fits the rest of this record.
But so weirdly, speaking of like just this being a 90s album, I kept looking at videos and stuff from this track. There's 2 actual music videos from this album, which is very interesting because
for a punk band, really yes. I mean, Disconnected maybe makes sense because of how big it was. But what was the other video?
Yeah, the other one, it was this live video.
Oh,
it's for
a very good song. Maybe that I think it might be one of my favorite songs on the album. Okay,
it's just like a live video. You know, like it had some finesse to it. But man, let me tell you about just like some things that brought me back. Trevor having the most 90s goatee I've ever seen. The social distortion look is what I will call it. Was very prevalent, and also bowling shirts. Why have none of those things
bowling shirts are cool. I have
yeah, I was like, did they issue them in California
for you? Dr. Pepper cherry bowling shirt someone gave me. Unfortunately, it is now like 3 sizes too big for me. But I keep it because it's really cool. It's a super cool shirt. Like I wish I had one that fit me, but it's too big.
It's just the most
bowling shirts they are pretty cool. I feel like they kind of went out of style with like when Charlie Sheen kind of went, you know, right. Like I just kind of felt like, well, maybe I don't need any tiger's blood on me. So.
You could bring it back. The 90s are back.
Are we? I have no idea.
On,
I'm seeing people out here wearing like giant bell bottoms. It's crazy. If Jinkos come back, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I've seen people in short pants and Jinkos, but they're like 16, 17 years old, and they can totally pull it off because they're 16 and 17 years old. Good for them, man.
Well,
live your dream.
Let's move on to I'm Not Afraid. How about that? Second song of the album. It's another song that doesn't stand out to me. Like I wasn't feeling it as much. The first two tracks of this aren't like I feel like I've heard these songs before musically, you know. But again, this song has some pretty introspective lyrics, I think, and it fits with the theme of the first song. And you know, I see it as someone who's talking about themselves. Like a lot of times the Face to Face, the writer of the music often is like saying, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. And like maybe as a kid, I might have thought they were talking to someone or talking about someone. But I think in this, they're actually talking about themselves. And I see it as someone who is talking about themselves and how they're not honest with themselves about who they are or what they're doing with their lives. And I think when a person breaks that mentality, and they're finally honest with themselves, they can really progress, you know, in life. And I kind of feel like that's what this song is going for. Like, I feel like this whole album is very self-reflective and maybe about becoming the person they want to be. And I think a lot of songs are on that. And so I'm Not Afraid, you know, I think they're saying maybe they're not afraid to make these changes, but I
like this song just because I think even though it is somewhat vague, I think it still like comes from a very vulnerable place. Still, it's kind of hard for me to decipher like what this song is about. Like I said, it seems like a breakup of some kind just because of the lyric of a second chance and possibly not even wanting to admit the truth of why something is split up. Or instead it could be like a father figure. It could be like so many things. It's kind of hard to figure it out. And this is also a really good example of kind of like the kind of slower tempo songs that they do in this album. Like the first one, oh my god, why is the name skipping me? You've Done Nothing Wrong is just kind of like really out the gate. It's higher energy the entire time. And then when you get to this track, it's taken out a couple notches, even though it still has like a lot of their energy and their songwriting and stuff. It just I don't know. It just seems more vulnerable in a sense. So for Not Afraid, I do like that. I don't know. I really like their melodic choruses. This is probably one of my favorite one of them in the album. And I like overall, but I don't know. I think in this album you have to take it with a grain of salt, and the fact that a lot of the songwriting is going to be similar. There's going to be another similar or two tracks down from this one that have like the same tempo.
Well, after these songs, I think the album really picks up. So, but like the first two, I'm like, right. But then we get to Disconnected, which there's a reason it got to where it was. It's a good song. Right? You know, talking about Disconnected, it to me it got a lot of radio play locally. I don't know about you, but like,
I mean, I saw it like on MTV or other soundtracks,
right? So the other way, it got a lot of play out here. I mean, we were in 94, 95. I was hearing a lot of Green Day and Bad Religion, and I guess, you know, like even in 95, a little bit of No Use for a Name and No Effects, a little bit, because they were from this area, so I think they were getting played. But we heard Disconnected a lot too, and I did see the video on MTV back in the day as well. And it's a song that I always thought was okay, and so I have some thoughts, and I kind of talked about it a little earlier. But in 94, 95, when like punk was resurging, it got played on the radio. And I always felt that because it was being played on the radio, it was just, oh, this is mainstream punk, right? I was very judgmental and gatekeepery as a 15, 16-year-old who was literally like into punk for like a year, 2 years. So
I know everything.
Right, exactly. Like I was right, like I just dove headfirst into it all. And that kind of shaped my perception of Face to Face until I listened to How to Ruin Everything. Like I said, I really like that album. Lyrically, it does fit the theme of the first two songs. There's a really interesting verse in the middle of the song. And let me see if I can't get the lyrics here. Trust is something that comes easy when you've never been a victim. Lies and promises and words are said. It's your decision to accept them. The rest of the song isn't really, this verse is almost out of place. It's like right in the middle of the song. And the rest of it is, I don't want to say it's out of place, but I think it changes the tone a little bit.
Yeah, I will say it changes the tone of it.
It takes this song on a path that's about perhaps overcoming trauma as a key to finding yourself and your path in life, which again, I feel is a primary theme of this album, which is about sort of self-discovery and finding yourself. At least that's what I got out of it. And I think it should have been the opening track of the album.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like it being in the middle, so I don't know. It's like the meat of the sandwich.
A little bit. Well, we are getting to the meat. Like the middle of this record is absolutely excellent. Like it's very good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also hate when albums are like, here's the awesome single in the beginning, and then it's
sure.
Shit, the rest of the way, you're like, how dare you?
But in 1992, right? Like, did they know that this was going to be the Tank Girl single, single on the Tank Girl album? Maybe not, right? So, who knows?
Yeah, no, this is definitely my favorite song, probably ever by Face to Face, honestly. I love this song. It got me through some real terrible breakups, and it's funny because when I was looking up stuff about this, someone says it gives Hope by Descendants vibes.
Oh my gosh!
Does
it?
I think it does a little, but it's not as cringy.
No, Hope by Descendant is really.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like what this. It's Disconnected is a more realized version of that, I think.
Again,
I don't know.
I know. See, so this is my point with this. I don't want to say point, but this is my thought with a lot of the things on this album. Right? There's a lot of talking where he says you, and it sounds like he's calling someone out, but I think he's very much calling himself out.
Yeah, it's definitely a switch between both.
Yeah, probably. And it's maybe I'm just not discerning it here, but like I feel like he's calling himself out constantly on this instead of other people. Now I could just be like, this could just be where I'm at, but like maybe that's where he was at.
Well, lyrically, I think it's both, because in instances he will use words like we or you, and then eventually towards the end of the song he will only use I.
Yeah.
So
yes.
He could be talking about a collective we, as in like himself included or whatever, but eventually he turns it inward, like it's ultimately your responsibility and your thoughts and whatever. But Disconnected, I like it. I think it's just a really good song about, frankly, just not being on the same page with somebody. And it could, I think it's romantic, but it could also be someone being manipulated or not being likable, or like, I don't, just not vibing correctly.
Sure.
Would be the correct instance for me, but
that's probably a better read than what I had.
You've never just been heartbroken listening to Face to Face driving down the highway at 80 miles per hour? Is that just me crying? No. That's just me.
You bring it up, though. You bring up the Descendants. I remember the first girl who broke my heart. I was listening to the B-side of I Don't Want to Grow Up like over and over. Just the B-side, not the fucked up first part with like Pervert and No FB, but like the other side with like the sad, heartbreaking songs.
Yeah, I would definitely say Disconnected was my top.
I feel it now. It makes
breakup punk songs. Only because specifically for me in this instance is like I really wanted to be with this person. We were together for like 3 years.
Yeah.
But the reason why we ultimately did not we never like got married or went any further is because we had very different life philosophies. And that's kind of harder to grasp.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Disconnected makes sense of that, you know, it's not working out because we literally do not view through the same lens or a similar lens. So like that really spoke to me on this album specifically because I'm like, okay, this kind of fits that instance, you know, but it could be about something else too, but I don't know. I feel like other people also get that vibe. Man, not enough people have broken your heart, Laz. Jesus.
It's usually I feel maybe I like when I was very young, like I had a bunch of breakups that really sucked for me, and then I became very callous. And so like girls breaking up with me, just like girls breaking up with me just felt very common. And that sounds it might sound like it's a me problem, but like I would just be like, oh, I guess I'm single again. Okay, great. And I would move on, and there would be a little bit of sadness, but not like heartbreak.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've been devastated many a times, but there's also been times where I'm like, oh, thank God.
Oh, you broke up with me? I didn't have to do it?
Yeah.
Like that, that's actually, that I won't lie, that's kind of been like a few times where like they dumped me and I was like, oh, I didn't have to do it this time. Okay.
Yeah, I would say in this instance, it was more heartbreaking because, you know, like, we were friends for 2 years.
You wanted something.
Yeah, like it would have made sense.
Yeah.
In any other aspect other than the fact that this is just like weird. I'm a type of person that believes that you can gain your goals through hard work and just kind of making it happen. This person just kind of believed it was luck. So as I'm saying, I don't think either of those things are wrong. But ultimately, it's like, how do those two people coincide in a space?
Yeah.
Whew, it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the next song, No Authority, which is a very punk rock sounding title.
You gotta have a song about authority,
right?
You have to,
and
in the bylaws,
right? And again, this is another track where now this one I could see it two different ways, right? Like I said, I feel like there's a lot of introspection and reflection on this record, and I feel like you can see one interpretation of the lyrics suggests that, hey, no matter who the authority figure is, even if you lose a fight or an argument with them, they'll never actually be able to tell you who to be.
Yeah.
And what to do with your life, right? You can you know, and it feels very much like fights with a parental figure, a school authority, maybe even law. But like in the end, I read it this one way as like, hey, I'm going to be me no matter what you say. You can tell me I can't do this and can't do that, but guess what? You're not going to change who I am. And that to me is one reading. I think that's the most punk rock reading of it. Yeah. But I also think the other is there's a more nuanced, and I might suggest that the authority is the individual talking about themselves, and maybe they don't know everything, right? And maybe they're not really an authority on things, but hey, maybe they're coming to terms with that and becoming who they want to be,
right?
This realization. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think as a way of saying it, it's like there's a journey to getting there, and then you know, understanding that you might not know everything right away, but you at least you know you're on the right path to getting there. I think it's just kind of a fun song, even though it's not my favorite song on the album or anything by any means. But yeah, I think it's a really good kind of classic punk song about authority.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I do like kind of like the fun snare work that you get in there. What kind of sucks and is great about this album is like this song, for instance, has really great bass in it, but the way they mix it, I hate it because it's like I have to like really like reach and think about it, or it's just like not there, and that kind of sucks because I think they're all really good individual musicians, and I just kind of wish it was highlighted more. But you know, back when you're a beginning band, you don't really either get a say in those things, or you know, money's tight. So like, you know, I think the album still came out good, but it sucks because you're gonna miss certain things unless you're kind of looking for it. And in this song, I feel like there's a lot of little hidden moments in there, and I'm just like, oh, I wish this was a little more highlighted, but you know, whatever. But I also said this is like kind of where in the album I start to kind of find their formula for songwriting a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the next song is similar in that respect, where it feels, I don't want to say like a formula, but it feels like the first couple of songs.
Honestly, if I had more time to do a little more research on this, I probably could have done a breakdown of how each song is. Yeah. Like, here's the chorus, here's the intro, like, just like do the placements, and I could probably tell you how it's done. But the best songs on this album are the ones that kind of throw that into a loop. Yeah, absolutely.
So the next song is called "I Want." The first thing that I wrote is that the song doesn't pop for me. Like, it's just like, but the lyrics, again, it's very philosophical. This one more than I think any others. And he's got like one of my kind of favorite types of phrases, which is, I really don't know much of anything. Like, I think when like, that's the old, Socratic saying or Platonic saying, right? I only know that I know nothing.
Or Up Ivy, all of that I don't know.
Right, and like just, but I think that's like the ultimate truth is that do we know anything at all? Barely. We barely know anything. And combined with the other lyrics, it makes sense. You know, it's kind of thematic. The song felt very cynical though, and I don't know if that's just me.
It is and it isn't, and that's probably why I like it a little more.
I mean, the lyrics, how can life mean something more than what it seems?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree. I agree with that, but like, it is kind of like, well,
I focused on a different part, which is probably the more pessimistic part of it too. It's like everybody wants equality, but we're all prejudiced. Mm-hmm. You know, we're all hypocrites. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's true.
Yeah, I just think that's a really good spotlight in that sense of like, yeah, everybody says we want, you know, equality, unity, what have you, but then we are basically just assholes to each other.
We don't do crap about it.
Yeah, we just preach about it, but literally nothing is gained from it. So, I mean, that's what I like. I think I Want is a really good, just like hands down, like, okay, this is what I want. Mm-hmm. I want people to stop being douche canoes, you know? Like,
everybody does.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I kind of like it. It's simplistic in that sense of like, this is what I want to happen. I want people to realize this, and that's the whole point of the song in that sense. I do like it has these nice little guitar arpeggios and nice little breakdown in the middle, you know, to kind of break up the song a little bit more. I'm still unsure about how I feel about the vocalizations at the end of the song. You know, but I'm sure if I'm drunk at a show, it's fantastic, you know, like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's purely what it was for. I mean, I will say I've seen Face to Face live a couple of times, and it's very singable chorus music. So like, I think they're like kind of the masters of that for sure.
they're good at it. I mean, like you said, there's kind of a little bit of a formula, and it's like I need to go deeper into their catalog to see if that's something that they change up more, or if it's something that they double down on. But I
do it and don't. It's real weird. That's kind of similar to this album where it's like when they break their own rules, the songs are really good. And then the ones that they don't break aren't necessarily bad, but it's just like it just doesn't hit the same.
Exactly. That's kind of how I feel.
I feel like their whole discography is like that. Not that I know a whole ton.
Right.
The albums that I have listened to, I'm like, oh, this is a Face to Face album. I can totally tell.
Easily, yeah. Starting with track 6, You've Got a Problem. This song is one of the first that really like popped for me. I was like, oh, yeah, this is a good song. I don't know if it's my favorite track, but it's definitely one of my favorite tracks. I like the intro to the song. I like the melody, Fantastic. Right? The melodies are really good on this one. Lyrically, again, the theme is, to me, was about, self-realization. Right. This one, he's like, so what's the problem now this time? I definitely felt that they were kind of talking about themselves and other people, but again, it's very much like holding up a mirror to themselves. You've got a problem with your life. Maybe the singer has a problem with their own life, right? Like that's kind of where I went with this one. I don't know if they're singing about another person. They say there's not a lot of time. And that to me feels like it's the author's time, like the writer's time. And they realize that maybe life is short and maybe they need to make the best of their life and their situation. And combined with the music and the lyrics, You Got a Problem. This ticks all the boxes, I guess, for me. I dig this song. I dig this track.
I love this song as well. I kind of think it's about someone that's disappointed you time and time again, and they still haven't figured out why for like themselves, which is irritating. The song just sounds like very irritable about watching someone cycle, just doing dumb shit, and it's like, as much as you want to help somebody and give advice and be a good friend or whatever, like until they realize it for themselves, it's like you're just like irritated. And I don't know. That's the thing. That's what this song comes off to me, especially when it's just like the title is "You've Got a Problem." Period. Like, you always have a problem. You always have these recurring things, and you like. I feel like this is a song of frustration. Yeah. Of like, I don't know what to tell you anymore, whatever that may be. But I don't know. I also like how in the songwriting style, it starts out with the guitar and the intro, but it slowly kind of builds in being a little more chaotic towards the end. I feel like it's kind of like it shows that building of irritation, like musically. I think it works really well.
And I think that will take us into track 7, Everything is Everything.
Yeah. I said this is the longest song of the track, which was funny because I was listening to everything again and I was like, God, this song is taking forever. At 3 minutes and 9 seconds, I was like, God, this song is too long.
Just wait till we get to track 10.
I know. I felt really dumb. I was like, my brain has just been ruined by every... God.
This is another very good song. Last time, I think this is a really good song on this record. Again, really good melodies, and I think it's maybe musically some of the best work on the record.
If you really want to get into it, I kind of touched on it earlier. I specifically, I like the juxtaposition missing, saying it's starting with "we" in the first chorus, and then it turns into "I" in the next chorus. And it's kind of interesting to me just because of the fact that this is a song about circling. You know, it's like, I'm tired of running these circles in my life and change. And it's crazy because, like, the way the songwriting is, it starts out one way and then it'll make a slight change in the next chorus. And then it'll be kind of a smaller change, but they're all still really similar throughout the entire song. So, like, there's these really small gradual changes throughout the song. And then it's still circling as well. So I just think it's a really beautiful representation of that I probably would have never caught a million years ago unless I really like sat down and really thought about it. And this to me is very clever songwriting, especially for this band. I mean, they have really clever and thought-provoking songs for sure, but like this one kind of just on the whole album was like, wow, that's really insightful. And I probably would have wrote this song as a filler song before. Honestly, I'd have been like, oh, it's cool. But I'm like, now that I kind of looked at it and pieced it apart, I'm like, actually, this is a really insightful.
Well, and maybe you can see why I'm drawing like some of these threads together from these other songs, and why I you know, I listened to it like 3 times to review it, right? And so the first time was just to like hear it. And read the lyrics. The second time was really to think about the lyrics. And the third time was like, as I wrote my notes, I listened to it again. That's why, like, when I wrote my notes, I saw all of these themes about reflection and self-discovery and sort of moving on. And what I wrote down here for this song is I think it's about self-discovery and growth. And I think, I think this might have been a very cathartic piece of work for the band, or at least for the artists, or for the writer, because they're really talking about a lot of things that, like, it you know, it sounds like they've had a lot of issues, like certain things that they're working towards or working through, and there's a really interesting, you know, the very last line. Okay, so like you said, it starts with we and ends with I. The first line is we've got a lot of questions, and the last one is I know my life will change again. And those are very profound to me. The second one, of course, the second line is we've got a lot to learn. And then the second to last line is I know that there is something that's going to change in my life. So it's definitely like a song about growth to me. Like, they haven't changed yet, but that's what they want to do, right? That's what they want to do. And I think everybody,
that's the goal.
I would hope that everybody feels that way, like that you can look, you can ask a lot of questions, know you have a lot to learn, and then know that you can change, or you know that you want to change. I think wanting to change is always the first step, right? That's always the first step, whether good or bad.
Yeah, I feel like in this album,
hopefully good.
Well, the themes in this album are definitely, for one, totally. Keeping an open mind would be like number 1 with a bullet. Number 2 would be like not knowing everything, but wanting to know as much as possible. I think are like the top 2 things I take away from this album. And honestly, during this time, that's kind of unheard of, especially from like
very 90s, like
so, which is crazy to think about, you know.
1992, this album came out. The band formed.
Also, not from Propagandis. I was like, let's act like they don't exist.
You know, they formed in '87, and so this came out in '92, and it, very, very good. No, like that's a really good point to make. Like, maybe it is a little ahead of his time, right?
Oh, I also knew
let's hear
another weird fact about Face to Face I did not learn. Hold on, it is good. I want to give it justice. So give me 1 sec. It was in a review. So okay, immediately prior to becoming Face to Face, Keith and bassist Matt Riddle had been in a Queensryche-esque metal band called Victoria Manor.
Interesting.
So I'm just saying, from coming from a hair metal Queensryche band to writing like this, like, wow. You know, wow. It is pretty impressive, honestly, because that is a hard jump to do mentally, musically.
Yeah, right. No, for real.
I mean, I think it gives them a leg up, especially when it comes to songwriting. You know, if you can do multiple genres and certain things, like, that will ultimately make you a better musician. But, like, those are way 2 different headspaces. You know? So it's actually kind of impressive that they can dig this deep, come up with those themes, and write a whole album about it, like, out the gate, after specifically coming from there.
Yeah. Right. No, that's I did not know that, and that's
that's what I'm
cool.
saying. I was like, what is happening? It's blowing my mind.
So the next track I'm trying, I kind of felt like broke the theme a little bit. The theme,
yeah, a little bit.
Not totally, but like, there's. First of all, I like this song a lot. This is another really good song.
Yeah.
Yes, really good melodies, really good, and some harmonies, some good harmonic lines in there. Not too heavy on that, but when the backing vocals come in, they're on point. Lyrically, this is a song a lot of punk bands do. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're copying other bands, but this is a song like punk band, like a lot of punk bands, they want to get off their chest. They want to make a few statements about, how tragic the world we live in is and how we cope with it.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I don't know necessarily if the singer themselves or the band themselves experienced like these things firsthand, but like, it sounds more like they're seeing the world maybe through a lens like the TV or the news, and they're struggling to cope with the reality of life in America. And this song is really relevant. And I'm going to read like the first couple of lyrics. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's just devastating. 4-year-old at play, shot and killed today. Right. And the first thing I think of is like Sandy Hook, Uvalde. Right. And like immediately this song just becomes super, super relevant. Right. 17 and high, threw his life away is the second line, has a gun to feel like he's a man. And then I think of that one kid who, murdered a couple of people at a BLM rally. Right. It just, I'm just like blown away by the what's the word? The prescience, right, of it. This sort of but it's very relevant song still.
Yeah. It's sad that even with the listing of all the things in this song that like, those are still universal things. That's kind of crazy.
And and even now it's like worse. Like in 1992 when this came out, there wasn't a rash of school shootings or 17-year-olds with maybe sort of like the looming
I think it was just
media sort of the media sort of hyping up gang violence of the 90s.
Well, I think you also have to take in perspective that everybody's had guns. We obviously had guns in the 90s.
Well, yeah.
But I think the production of it pre and post 9/11 has a lot to do with it.
Sure,
so that's what I'm saying. Like we weren't I don't think we were the top arms dealers up until 2000.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just trying to remember from memory. But it would make a lot more sense of why we would see an uptick if we are indeed mass producing things like that. So but yeah, it's crazy to think about in 1992. Like, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. It's obviously escalated there, but it's still a universal problem.
He also talks about trying to open his mind, in which you said being open-minded. And he talks about trying to be open-minded multiple times on this record. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's like being open-minded about right, or maybe like this is just all in the media. Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that the title "I'm Trying" very much suggests that they're trying to exist in this reality and trying to make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, I think it leans more of trying to be optimistic in a sense. Like, he's just listing all these terrible things, but like, it's just trying to make sense of it all, trying to stay positive, especially when it's really hard to be. And I could just be like grasping at straws here. I kind of view it as maybe like an anti-religion song, like
a little bit,
right?
They talk about faith in there.
Yeah, it says you can keep your faith and I'll just walk away. Like it kind of gives me like Thoughts and Prayers vibes.
Right. Again, like way before its time. Like I think not Pastel. I'm sorry. I'm looking at that one already. I think I'm Trying is one of the best songs on the album.
Yeah.
One of the best. In fact, You've Got a Problem, Everything is Everything, I'm Trying, and Pastel, just like 4 in a row that I think are just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think we can move on to Pastel, which is a really good song.
I do have a question. What do you think pastel means? I still don't know to this day. I have no conclusions.
So pastel is just like let's break it down, right? What is a pastel is like a bunch of colors, right? There's a certain type of color grouping.
It's all light colors.
Right? They're lighter, and when I think of pastels, I think of like these light pinks, these light blues, maybe this sort of faded yellow.
It also could be a chalk. That's what I'm saying.
Chalk,
like, right? A couple of things. I'm like, fuck.
Right? So if we look at the lyrics to the song, I don't know what's going on. They have I
think it's just random.
There is one lyric that says, "Can't I make it just go away?" I mean, like, and you think of pastel, art on on the sidewalk getting washed away. I don't know. But here's what I thought. Okay.
They didn't just mess with us. That's all I'm thinking.
Maybe. Sometimes bands do that, which is fine, right? Awesome intro to this song.
Oh, I love it. Wow.
It's got a really good bridge and a bunch of like off-tempo sections to the song, and it makes this one really stand out to me a lot. And the lyrics I can relate to, and I'm going to tell you how I thought about it. Yeah. When I listen to it, I think about living in a capitalist society and how I absolutely hate so much about capitalism. And when I was young, I was pretty much at least a socialist at the age of 15, okay? Which is weird maybe, but like that's where I've been like my entire life almost. Mm-hmm. And so when I was young, I hated the idea of people making money and profit. And I still do, but making money now for myself to exist is something I have to do. But I didn't even want to know how to play by the rules, right? Like I was like F everything about the system, right? And that made a lot of mistakes because like I didn't do that, like financial mistakes that screwed me up and things like that. But that's how I thought about this. I didn't want to know how to play by the rules, but I'm forced to because it's the only game in town. And at the end, it's like when I think about those systems and people are always they can't really justify it, but they don't go against it either. And that's what I read here, because like the very last lines, like, is what hammered it home was, must be a reason for us to justify it, but no one will defy it. Right. And so like that's what this song I thought about. I was like, man, this feels very, like I hate the system. I have to live in it. I don't want to learn crap about the game that they're playing.
Yeah, that's kind of my similar take.
It's
like, why are we the way we are, and why do we accept the conditions?
Totally.
Like, I think that's like the ultimate question of this song. Mm-hmm. It's like, for instance, like you play these games with each other, but we always get these bad results. Like it's never the outcome that you want. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than that, I think it's just a fun song.
No, it's a really good song.
Yeah,
it's a good song.
It's like really upbeat and catchy, and then you're like kind of dig into it, and you're just like, yeah, why do we accept these terms to life?
Right.
Really.
Exactly. And it makes me think about the previous song, I'm Trying, where they talk about, if you want to go back to justifying it, but no one will defy it, like where they talk about a child being killed. And now I think about today, we talk about kids getting killed and how we want to stop it. And literally nothing gets done. Like we just talk about how horrible it is. And it's essentially, we just have to accept it. There's no other way. And like when people try to do another way, the people are like, no, this is the only way. And they can't justify their position outside of like saying it's always been this way. Mm-hmm. And so the two songs back to back really kind of strike a chord.
Yeah, that definitely sums up Pastel.
Right? Yeah.
Alright, You want to go to Nothing New?
Sure. Why don't you start with this one?
I said it still continues the theme of being open-minded and problem solving.
Yes. No, that's my first note is this song circles back to the themes of this album. So yes, I think we're on the same page here. It starts okay, but I think it's really good.
Yeah, I was saying I kind of like the build up towards the end. It's like it has like this nice little drum thing into the last verse, and it's like really pretty, and I like it.
Good lines of harmony, some very good guitar work.
I think I did just one lyrics. It's like, you can't make it, so why try?
Right.
I thought it, so. Oh no, that's what it was. So for a long time, I was getting this lyric wrong. Apparently, it's like, why can't you make it? So why try? Is what it is. I thought it was. You can't make it, so I cry. That's seriously. I thought it was for like 20 fucking years.
That's the reason you're crying is you can't make it.
I know. I was like, for the record, apparently, Face to Face is not going to cry in this album. No. So,
this is this is a cynical song, right?
Yeah,
like that end.
I was like, wow, I got that way wrong.
You can't make it, so why try? Wow. Again, like if we're talking about self-awareness and wanting to change, I feel like they're having a moment of doubt, and we've all been there. I think you just doubt, like, why should I even try? It's not gonna happen for me.
I mean, at some point you're gonna have a point of like, fuck it, I can't do this anymore.
Right. It happens to everybody, I think.
So why not have a song about it?
Sure. It's a good song. I think it's a good song too.
Yeah, for sure. As I'm saying, all these songs have good themes, and they all fit together, and they all deserve to be on this album for sure. Which I will obviously get into a track that I don't particularly care about.
Walk Away.
Oh no, I love Walk Away. I love Walk Away a lot. Actually, I think it's a very underrated hit on this album.
Oh, okay.
I'll save the suspense for later.
Well, here's the first thing I want to say about Walk Away. We talked earlier about the album covers with people putting their heads down. How many punk bands have a song called Walk Away? I can think of a couple. Right? Bad Religion has one, like Walk Away.
I was thinking of, what is it? I think it's just Walk by Bad Religion.
Well, they have a song called A Walk, but they also have one called Walk Away.
That's like weirdly one of my favorite Bad Religion songs.
Walk? Yeah, it's great.
Yes, it's so good. It's so simple. I love it. I can't help it. Same with the song too, honestly. It's just like this really quick, kind of fun song. I mean, obviously it fits into the I don't care, we're obviously going to disagree kind of theme, but I think it's really singable. It's short. You gotta have a walk song. I don't know.
So here's my take. It has a cool intro. Like I said, I think a lot of punk bands have a song called Walk Away. I got to look into this, but I think more than Face to Face and Bad Religion, I think a few other punk bands have a song called Walk Away. And that's fine. I think lyrically this is a pretty punk rock song. Hold on, I want to just double check it. But like I feel like they're kind of giving the metaphorical middle finger to the way other people want this individual to be.
Yeah.
And I like this song on the grounds that it is, as I say, punk as fuck. I think this is a really good song. And it's 2 minutes and 9 seconds, so it's
that's what I'm saying. It's like this delicious little punk snack. I love it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It does have some meaning behind it, and it's very quintessential of like, you're not going to change my mind on morals kind of thing. So, walk your way before I like probably break your teeth in or something. But that's just me insinuating that. They probably are lovely people.
Of course.
You want to get into Do You Care?
Do You Care? All right. So Do You Care? This is another, I was wondering if they're talking about themselves or another person.
Yeah.
If it's about themselves, then it definitely falls within the themes of this record, like I've discussed before. If they're talking about another person, though, the lyrics feel very judgmental.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit. And with maybe an air of superiority, which is why I don't think they're actually talking about another person. I think it's like they're talking about someone themselves. But like if they're being, you know, I felt it was a little judgmental if your reading of it is like you're the person.
I don't know. I think it's hard to say because it's like it could come from a place of arrogance, but it could be a place of like, you know, wanting someone to be a better person, but afraid they're not gonna make it out of that.
Yeah.
You know, I have this weird theory, and it is absolutely a theory. I think there's a point in your life where you have to decide, kind of like if you want to be good or evil.
Sure.
You know, like
sure.
Do you want to remain in this ignorance and, you know, this kind of game and maybe not make the best decisions, or do you want to evolve and become a better person in society?
Yeah.
You know, good and evil is very simplistic terms, but like, and I feel this is a little bit of that. They're like, you know, if you don't change your paths, you know, you're just not going to make it. You know, you're not going to succeed in life. You're not going to find that happiness. So like, you know, saying that, it's saying like life is long and life is also short. You know, as I was saying, you're running out of time. So like that is implying life is short, and it is to a degree when it comes to these decisions, you know, because they affect
every decision later.
Yeah.
Everything down the line. Like that's something I think about a lot, and maybe it's a little philosophical, but like every decision I've made affects every decision that you make later. And it's almost like the first decision I made all the other decisions for me, and I have no idea how far back that goes. And besides like, you know, things in nature that I have no way, you know, to, or like circumstances that I don't have any control over. So very determinist thinking there. But I agree, like there's got to be a point in your life where you don't want to do bad things. You want to do the most good and just things you can do. And if you don't decide that, then like you will make decisions that will negatively affect yourself and others.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of these songs come out of frustration. You know, like you understand this inherently. You see someone not doing that or not making sense of it, and this is like you're just like an observer, like you're just a person looking through a window, and there's nothing you can do or say. You know, so I think it's where that frustration comes from, and probably some of these songs come out of because they're like, I can't say these things for you to realize, you know, but I need to say it to like get it off my chest, you know, to get that frustration off my plate. So I feel like that's a lot of where this album comes from. Where like I've taken the time to really learn and understand and seek myself inward, but you aren't doing the same, and not it's having a negative effect on your life, you know, like, so I'm just saying like a lot of this comes out of frustration of, you know, wanting someone to do better because you believe in that capability. And oh my God, have I been there 1,000 times?
That's actually 1,000 times is actually the name of the next track. Ironically.
Oh, wow. I didn't even do that.
That was a beautiful segue. Unless you have something more to say, we can.
No, I mean, I couldn't have not planned a better segue myself. So.
I appreciated that.
Wow.
So this is the last track on the original release. Apparently it was re-released, I think, on Fat in 2016 or something later, 2015, with a couple extra bonus tracks, which we're not going to. I feel like the band went on a journey here. And I don't know what they gleaned from it, but I feel like they've been doing this for a long time. Like this, like you said, there's a lot of frustrations it sounds like they're trying to express on this record, either about themselves or about other people that are in their lives, or people they see around them. And it's a good song. It's not my favorite. It was okay one to end. But I thought it was good, but that's kind of where I see it. I think it kind of sums up all the themes of the record, whether intentional or not. And it ended with an okay ender, or finale, I guess.
You know, I 100% ready to hate on this song, and then I just said all that shit. And I kind of changed my mind a little bit now. Yeah, 1,000 Times is definitely purely frustration, and I totally get that now that I've talked it out in my head.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, like I said, it makes sense this song is on this album. I 100% believe it fits in this album just because of the theme. My thing is, I probably would have placed it somewhere different, but now that I've talked about those two songs back to back, I received that.
Nice.
I take it back. That's the fun thing about talking about art is like you could start with one opinion and then go to a completely different space. So I'm just going to take the L.
Yeah, well, there's no L's being taken here, right? Like you said, it's art. The artist might have meant one thing, but like, you know, we as subjective viewers are gonna make our own meanings, and whether people agree with us or not, that it doesn't matter to me. And I think it doesn't matter to the artist. I think they just want people to enjoy what they're doing. I'll tell you what I think. I think this album is worth a listen. If you like Face to Face's style, you're going to love this record. Yes. Like, just hands down. Like, I think Face to Face fans are probably very passionate about the band. Listening to this and having listened to How to Ruin Everything, right, a bunch of times, where there are songs that don't necessarily fall under their, you know, little formula that they kind of have here on some of the songs here. I want to hear more. I want to see how the band gets from, you know, point A to point B. And then, you know, they got back together, I think in like 2009 or something, and then put out like 3 or 4
songs. That's what I saw.
So, or at least they started re-releasing music again in that time. I think Face to Face stays consistent, but they changed it up enough so that you're not pointing things out like, well, it's kind of a formulaic Face to Face song. There's different tempos. Different solos, better harmonies, better production, thankfully. Even though I like sort of like raw punk production, but I also very much appreciate a well-produced, well-engineered record.
I like a well-engineered album. I don't like an over-engineered, overproduced. I want the 100%.
Yeah, I got you. I feel you.
That's fine, but yeah, I also understand money, technology are also big factors.
And I mean, I guess like, what is Face to Face's role? So with Face to Face, like are they a Fat Records band? Yes, they have 3 albums on Fat, right?
Yeah, I feel like they fit.
And they definitely fit, but I wouldn't call them a core Fat band, but they have a sound that you could say, yeah, that's a Fat sound, right? I think so.
Yeah, I think they fit in well. Because I think there are shinier stars in that galaxy, it's kind of hard for them to push up to
I agree.
the top.
I agree.
You know, it's not anybody's fault. They deserve a place in there for sure. And especially like this band coming out at this time and getting some commercial success is very hard to do.
Right? It's significant. They kind of floated to the top early on when a lot of other bands maybe had more indie clout, underground clout, right? And this band just kind of gets a hit.
I say we go into it. So like, here's a couple of things kind of talking about like what is kind of happening at that time. I weirdly found an AV Club review about this semi-recently. It says, instead, Don't Turn Away is derivative in a broader way. It's as if someone stepped back, viewed early 90s punk as a whole, squinted, and then took a panorama shot, then photocopied it.
That's definitely so. I want to just respond to that. Like, before listening to this album 3 times, right? Yeah. I would say that might have been my first kind of that description kind of sounds like, yeah, maybe, right? But continue.
There are a lot of people having a certain sound and kind of mirroring each other at the time. So I mean, I kind of get where that comes from. But it says, to certain factions of the punk scene, you had to be born punk. Or at least you had to be better at covering your tracks. None of this meant much to me, or at least as far as Face to Face was concerned. I'm not one to pretend I wasn't occasionally overcome by notions of punk purity back then. Sellout was already well on its way to becoming the dismissive label du jour before anyone had really sold out. But there's no denying Don't Turn Away. Yeah, as I'm saying, like, they kind of combated through that. And still came out on top, especially from like the very elitist things that were looming to be after.
It's very true. Like that's a very good statement that makes a lot of sense. If you were into 90s punk, like hearing that whole thing, like that makes a lot of sense. But I'll say this, like the Sellout label I don't think it stuck with them because people like Face to Face.
I think they became unscathed.
No, I think people like Face to Face, right? I think they enjoy Face to Face. It's a band that I want to say they come around and I have the opportunity, I might go see them. So, right. I if they put on a good show, that could be even more important.
Honestly, the only reason I saw them the first time was because they toured with Strung Out. But
that's a good 1-2 combo.
It made me a better fan of theirs because like before it was very casual, like I knew a couple of songs, whatever. But seeing them live and kind of seeing them do songs from this album kind of made me definitely more curious and stuff like that. And weird side fact, this is the only time in a concert I ever made out with somebody.
Nice.
Thank you, Face
to
Face.
You were literally face to face, right?
Wow. I was very open.
Well, it's okay. Joke. That's what I'm here for.
Oh my god!
Just pointing out the obvious is something I'm a pro at.
I'm gonna detract from that by going into this was in the wiki, which is very interesting. It's from Trouser Press, calling the album a stirring and exciting debut, undercut slightly by its overt stylistic debut to Husker Du and Social Distortion. Do you feel like that this is like the child of those two bands?
I don't know if I'm seeing the Social Distortion link so much.
They look like Social
So
Distortion.
that could be why.
I don't think they sound like them just because Mike Ness has a very distinct voice, and B, it's like more rock and roll.
Well, the only album that I can think of is maybe they thought it sounded a little bit like Mommy's Little Monster or something, like the first album, which was much more, old school punk, traditional kind of stuff going.
Yeah, maybe I could see if it was like earlier, like the first 2 albums or something.
So
maybe. Husker Du I could totally get, though.
Well, Husker Du is very good.
They influenced so many damn bands. I'm yes.
Sure.
That's just my thought on that.
I think Face to Face, if they broke out of that, having a few of those formulaic songs, I think, and I have to go deeper into the catalog again, but which they do. Like I said, How to Ruin Everything, pretty good record. I like it quite a bit. Yeah,
they kind of go into in the interview saying that they're kind of part California punk that were influenced by like Brit punks. And I could see that, like,
but they definitely have that 90s skate punk edge, right? Like for sure.
I get that.
Any other reviews?
The only thing I would say is left is I do like to kind of get like what real fans say about this album, and this was actually really hard to find this time. Usually Amazon is gold for this shit. Funny thing is, on Amazon, everybody had nothing but good things to say, which is very unpunk-like, guys. Wow. I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed right now. I did get some interesting comments from YouTube, which I don't like looking at. Here is my top 3 from the Disconnected video. This is from Max Garza, 4 months ago, by the way. I'll never stop thanking my dad for introducing me to these guys in the 7th grade. My peers turned to trash like Cardi B and A$AP Rocky for comfort. I turned to Face and the Descendants. This song single-handedly got me through freshman year.
Wow.
I'm thinking this person is very young. Like, this is probably like last year. Right? Mm-hmm. They like discovered Disconnected.
Yeah. Hey, good for them. Right? Good for them.
Why are you gonna hate on Cardi B? Like, it's not the same thing. These are apples and oranges. They're all fruit, but like, come on. Compare it to another band. Another funk band. This is from a while ago. It says, the Virgin Over EP came out in 1994 and got them some mainstream play, and the original Don't Turn Her Away that came out in 92 on Doctor Strange is nearly impossible to come by. But Fat re-released it in 95. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of them back in the day and fond memories of high school of hearing this song. Yeah, there's just like a ton of memories of people being like, it's like I had this tape in every stereo. This is all I listened to in high school. This is my favorite quote though. Hands down, this is one of the best cinematic representation of our small town looking ass microcosm of faith ever. Thank you, Face to Face.
There's some good reviews. These are some good reviews. I'm liking them.
This is what the people want. This is in a nutshell Face to Face.
That's fandom. Good though. That's good. That's positive, right? Like I'm happy Face to Face has a fan base that is out there supporting them like that on Amazon, and hopefully live.
No, I was saying Amazon was like all positive. This is just like YouTube.
Oh,
comments,
well, that's YouTube. That's a different story.
That's what I was saying. I'd rather usually not go there to look for what people think, because God, do I not want to know. But this was like the most real part of their fandom, I think, would be people who are like, oh, I remember this song. And then a very random young person that just got into them. I'm like, that's good. Good for you. But let's talk about what we're going to talk about next.
It's good riddance. Forgotten Country. A personal favorite of mine, very, close to where I live. I have a Russ Rankin story. I have a couple of them. A couple of good riddance stories.
Yeah, like I run into the supermarket all the time.
Almost. But we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, I didn't get into good riddance till probably like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. So it's still new to me. So that'll be exciting.
They have a really cool library of music. Even though I think this one is a fat classic and a great punk record, they got a lot of other albums that are also just outstanding. Okay. Another good episode in the can, as to say.
I think we did the album justice. Shout out to Face to keep doing it after all these years. Their last album was actually pretty good. I can't remember the name of it, but
punk bands that are still going from the 90s, I applaud them.
I think it was this year too. So yeah, if you want a new Face to Face album, that is available.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2021. Also on Fat Records.
Ooh, there we go. I was gonna say, I know it.
So we'll get to that one in about 20 years ourselves.
Yeah. Totally. just be patient. Yeah. We'll get to it. God. Let's just hope that we're doing it that long. I hope so, but
well, we'll see everyone in a couple weeks.
All right. Well, thanks for getting wrecked with us.
Yep. As always, get wrecked.